my paint by number peeps. This is Melanie, and today I'm just gonna do some painting, but I thought what I would do is kind of give you some tips along the way of what I personally do when I'm painting and which brushes to use in certain areas and all that. So I'm hoping, because I'm in a crazy setup right now and I had moved so much of my stuff out of the house already, I'm kind of having to work in a situation that is not exactly the best setup. I'm also having to consider the fact that I'm going to be painting far away from myself because I'm having to push it so far this way for you guys to see. But you know, it's going to be worth it because I'm hoping these little things are going to help you. So this particular painting is one that I'm just done a review on from Canvas by Numbers. It's called Little Colorful Owl, and I think they're out of stock on it at this moment. I'm actually recording this video on July the 10th. And so by the time you see this video, it might already be back in stock. I thought I would go ahead and show you what I do in these large openings like this, because you know, I am a big, huge fan of all these little tiny brushes for detail work, but these aren't gonna work in this situation. You will have stroke marks, you will have, I mean, it will be a mess. You won't have great coverage. So what do? Well, I also have wider brushes like this, like the ones that I told you about, the chisel brushes from Princeton that I have listed for Blick, like these right here. I have gotten them for blending, but they're also really nice for these large openings. This one is a Xena color, but this came as a set. So I'm gonna put the set in the bottom of the description down there for you. And that way you can find this set because it's nice for these larger areas. This one here is also a part of that same set, and it's nice for bigger areas as well. So I also have a round brush that I've got in my hand here. This is part of the Xena color set. And then I have a Zim number 4 Rocket Shader brush, which is basically like these chisel brushes from Princeton. So you could have this or these, it doesn't matter. If you just have different sizes in them, it'll be fine. So I've already gessoed this piece and I've been working on it some, as you can see down there on the other side. I'm actually working on it upside down right now. So you're looking at it, you're gonna be looking at it upside down also. But what I have beside me is I have my cup of water. I cannot find my paint puck right now because of all this moving junk, but I have a makeup wipe, a makeup removal wipe from Farmasi, which is the company I sell beauty cosmetics and skincare for. So I have that pack nearby. These are only $4.90 for 20, you guys. You probably should just stock up if you decide to get some. These are kind of, I think these are the most affordable ones I've ever found. All right, so anyway, back to this painting. I have added to some colors already a little bit of Flow Aid and a little bit of extender. Now this is a new item, the extender that I have been working with. Judy McDougall from the group had said something about trying the extender. So what it does is it increases the open time, and the transparency. And so a little drop or two of this thins the paint. So it's good for acrylic paint, but you can mix it in different ways. I'm actually adding a drop to my paint itself, and then I'm still adding a drop of diluted Flow Aid or a drop of just plain old Flow Aid, depending on the consistency of the paint to begin with. So you don't want your paints thin, you want them creamy. So there's a big difference. When you see me working with this one that I'm about to use, this green, this lime color, you're gonna see the consistency is perfect. So I've already got my brush ready, and I'm using the larger Xena color brush. And what it allows me to do is just cover large areas and get a really nice smooth layer. Now you'll notice I'm not going up around the edges, so I'm not having to be super neat. What I'm focusing on right now is just making sure that my stroke marks are going in the right direction and that I'm getting some good coverage. You'll notice I flip my brush back and forth and use both sides. If there's any lines created from the paint, then those lines I'm gonna go back over the top and overlap to get rid of them. But you see how fast, I mean, I'm not doing this at fast forward. This is actual time. And you see how fast I'm able to lay down the paint in these larger areas. Now I've got a little bubbling up here in my canvas, but only because I did not tape it down, because again, my tape has been moved. But that, and I'm kind of just making it wispy strokes. Like I'm keeping my paintbrush pretty light. I'm not holding it down here super tight or anything. And I'm scooping out a little puddle almost and using that to spread back and forth. Now this side over here has already dried, so I can see where it's not as, you know, neatly covered in some places. So I'm just going to go ahead and go over the top of that with what I have left on this brush, and I'll come back later and do the same for this part once it dries. So now we're going to focus on the detail areas here. I'm going to clean my brush. I'm never going to leave this brush sitting in this water. You guys, I have been so bad in the past before I started doing videos about letting my brush sit in the water just while I went to make lunch or, you know, to go to the restroom or something. But the problem with it is it will bend your bristles in that short amount of time. So I just really try not to do that. So you'll notice I'm washing off the brush in this water, and then I'm taking it to the cosmetic white and just kind of pulling it and getting the excess water off. I feel like there might be a little more paint down in here. I don't know, it looks really good. Okay, so the reason for this white is Patty Jo on the group mentioned that she's been using cosmetic wipes, and what it does is it keeps the brushes from fraying. So I used a brand new Princeton brush the other day for all the painting I have already done on this piece, and it doesn't have one tiny little hair out of place after I'm finished. I did not go and wash it in the sink afterward. I did not use conditioner. I did not use anything but the little cosmetic wipe. And I'm also dipping my paintbrush down in this Farmasi biphased makeup remover at the end of the night. You shake it up. This is great for your skin, you guys. Taking off makeup and stuff, it gets off waterproof makeup. But anyway, what I've been doing is dipping my brush into some of this and leaving it on there to condition overnight. And that has kept my little Princeton brush looking very, very perfect. So I'm hoping I'm gonna get enough use out of him to make him worth it. So I'm gonna go in. This brush was frayed beforehand and it's still frayed, but it looks better than it did before I started using the makeup remover. And they go in with this guy. This one's an Artist Loft from Michaels and is a 3-0 spotter detail brush. This is one of my favorites. So now I can get in here in these little areas that are close and finish with the detail part of this color. I really hope you guys are able to see what I'm doing. All right, my issue is having to lean so far in. Now I don't want to put my hand over here, so what I'll do is probably block the camera completely, and I'm going to come in this way, keeping my arm out of that wet paint. It won't be wet for long, and just filling in that little section. Now you'll see I get a little scoop of paint, but I'm not putting it right on the edge. I'm putting it on the more of the inner part, and then I'm bringing it to the edge. So what that does is it smooths the first layer of paint that I put on, and then this little side border paint, it makes it look like it's all one, all unified. And then I just kind of, you know, pull out any little uneven strokes, any lines that I see that need to be removed. Now I don't mind a little impasto, like a little texture. To me that gives it a lot more life. So I don't mind having a little bit of the stroke marks, but I don't like gloppy paint. And you see how perfectly this paint is going on. I mean, it's like butter. Wonderful stuff. and I'm only getting a little paint each time. You don't need a lot, and I think the biggest problem for a lot of people is their paint's not thin enough and they're getting too much when they start with a section. So if you ever get too much, start in the middle and bring it outward. And that will help you to smooth out any brushstroke lines. And it also helps to make sure you're using the right brush, because in these smaller areas, if I was using a big brush, I'm gonna go over lines and I'm gonna be a mess. If I was using a tiny brush, it's gonna take me forever, and that little brush is gonna leave stroke marks because I'm having to cover such a large area. So you can see the way I'm stroking. You won't notice when this dries where that first layer ended and where this one ended, because they overlap and they get rid of any extra in the middle. I'm sitting so far back. I hope I'm making this straight. It's really uncomfortable. Now, if these sections were any larger, I would go with a larger brush to eliminate stroke marks. And you'll notice I'm keeping my hand out of this, but it is pretty much dry, this part right here that I just did. It does not take long for acrylic paints to dry. Now, the extender that I've put into the paint, that dropper tube extender, will make it be a little wet for a little longer, but that just means it's kind of more forgiving. You can make changes to it before it dries. But the extender is really nice. I mean, I'm liking the way it's making the paint flow, but it's giving me a lot of nice opacity. This color, I can't believe how opaque it is. Now you'll notice on large sections, you're gonna have little patches of uneven color. That's just normal. You might get it a little thicker in one spot than the other. It is okay. Once it dries, you just kind of touch paint, touch up wherever you see those little, I don't know, less coated parts, I guess is the way I should say that. Now, I'm not being too precise here, even though there is another color that's supposed to run along this side. I'm not being super precise because the other color will cover it and kind of fix any issues that I have down here. But I am trying to be pretty straight. I don't want it to be sloppy. And you'll notice I'm overlapping areas I've already painted just to make sure there's no real stroke marks. So I'm gonna go in here along this edge and touch this up a little bit better. once it dries completely, I'm gonna go over it and I'm gonna check for any spots that aren't as covered as other spots. So I'm gonna let it dry a little bit. And at this point, what I would do, and I get this question a lot, is like, where do you start? Where do you go from there, kind of thing. But what I do is I rotate my canvas around. So I would go down to the number 6 here and then keep going this way. And then when that dries, I'll come back up and finish it, because I literally do not have any rhyme to my reason. There's no method to my madness. And you guys know, madness is about the right term to describe me. So while number 1 over here is drying, and before I can tell if it's smooth or not, I'm gonna go ahead and do number 6. Trying to figure out where to put my brushes. I hate having such little space here. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but I have an entire hobby room. It's pretty large. That all of my cabinets, I designed it myself and kind of built it myself out of those like storage cubes with bins, and over the years, it was perfect. And then I had to move all that down to my mom's back in January when we first thought we were being evicted, and it's all down there. So I don't have a setup. I'm sitting in a chair with an ottoman right now. And this is a chair that I had in my bedroom that we never used. So it's like, it's not even our normal living room den furniture. It's just, oh, it's so weird. All right, back to painting. It's like having friends over to paint though, I like it. So I painted a bunch of stuff and you guys missed it because my stupid camera mount thing is broken, and so it flops around, and so it was dropped down too low. Anyway, I hope you saw what I just did, but I just took this wide flat brush from Color and filled in as much as I could of this number 6. Now I'm done with this wide paintbrush, and let's go in with a smaller one. I'm gonna try this red one that I got in a kit. It's actually a wooden one, but it looks like it's got a nice tip to it. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the part here to get it filled in. And then when this dries, I'll go back and do this part over here. But let's try this one. All right, I'm gonna come around this way, blocking you a little bit probably, and lining around over the number lines. I feel like a contortionist, but I don't want my hand in it. And I'm not gonna wait because I'm too impatient for that nonsense. I hate to spend money where I don't have to, but I mean, I just feel like some brushes just are not worth it. I don't know where that one came from, but it just felt like it was dragging a lot. So I'm going back to this Artist Loft 3/0 from Michaels. I don't have a link for that one because they don't do affiliate type of stuff there that I know of. So I don't have a link that would give me any credit or sales, you know, whatever. But if you go to michaels.com and type in Artist Loft detail, it will pull up the options for the different sizes. And they do have smaller ones. The 20/0 is one that I've used a ton. I have frayed all of mine. So you guys notice, this is kind of messy, the first layer I'm doing here. And I'm not necessarily gonna go back and do another layer, but I'm quick about it. I'm not taking too much time because I know that once I fill in little patches of thinner areas, that it's gonna look perfect and I'm not gonna worry about it, because as long as I'm getting the stroke marks out, that's pretty much the only thing you really have to, be concerned with the first layer. And I won't be doing a second layer, I'll just be touching up. Get my contortionist arm going again. Now, I know a lot of you guys have requested that I do videos about tight spots and what brushes and stuff. So that will come on another day. I just happen to be working on this little painting because I felt like he was gonna be an easy one with these open areas that I feel like I haven't accomplished anything lately because I haven't finished any of the ones I've started because I had to stop everything and start moving. So I thought I would work with him, and then I'll probably pull out one of my masterpiece by numbers, which is so totally detailed that it's terrifying, and work with one of those and show you guys what I do on those situations. Because this little painting would be perfect for a beginner. It doesn't have to be for a beginner, but it would be perfect for anybody that's just starting out. Because open areas like this are the easiest to do. Well, they're the quickest, and you don't get as frustrated usually. Boy, I really got a straight line going there. Now, if it bothers you not to have a completely straight line, you can put down some frog tape right up on that edge and paint it, and then pull it off, and it will give you a crisp line all the way down. I don't, because I'm not that worried about it. All right, let's do our contortionist move again so I can get up here and get all this detail work. And my light is not helping. So I'm an idiot, y'all, and I put my aunt light. It's just a little pop-up light like I've shown you in that one video about the tools that I use. I set it on my canvas. I never set anything on my canvas, but in order to be able to see the other night, I put it right here. And I realized there's something on my canvas right in here. So that's why I don't ever put anything on it. I don't know why I broke my own rule, but don't set anything on your canvas. I put my laptop down earlier here, and I was like, I'm moving my canvas because I don't know if there's anything on the bottom of my laptop that might transfer. And then I noticed that stuff from my aunt light, and I was glad I didn't do it. Okay. Now I've gotten all the edges, so I'm going to clean this brush, and I'm going to go back to a brush. It's not quite as wide as the first one I used. It doesn't matter which one you use. Make sure that it's been wet so it's flimsy and not stiff. I don't know that I've ever used this brush because I bought 2 or 3 of each one. I'm going to use this one that's got a little more of a thinner chisel tip. This is a number 10 chisel. I'm gonna go back over because all that is dried already. And I'm just gonna make sure that any of the thin spots are now covered with another thin coat. Paint by number paint, acrylics, is basically like anything else. Less is usually more. It's better to put thin coats than thick ones. Get it smoothed out. Don't clump a bunch up and then try to smooth it, because it doesn't really work that way, especially if you're not using flow aid or extender or anything in your paint. It'll just stop where you are and it'll be like, okay, it's not moving. And you'll get these thick, uneven areas, and it won't be smooth when you're finished, and you'll be like, ooh, God, you'll be able to see it. Nobody else probably pay attention to it, but you will. Now this paint is not as creamy. This color isn't as creamy as the one I had earlier, and it might be because I haven't added the extender to it. I might do that, but it's nice, but it's not as creamy as the other one. I just don't want any stroke marks. I'm definitely gonna add some. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 2 drops of extender. Sorry, my paintbrush is in my mouth, y'all. And 1 flow aid directly from the bottle. I hope y'all can't hear me snap, crackling, and popping over here. Every time I move, I sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies. I don't know what's going on. I guess moving and packing and stuff that I was not supposed to be doing, according to my doctors, because of the joint pain and all this stuff. I did it anyway because I didn't have a choice. Somebody had to pack my stuff up and move it. But, oh my gosh, my body is feeling it now. That's how you know you're getting older. That's how I know I turned 50. Okay, back to my paint. It's super thin now. It might be too thin. Now, if I got too much in there, I can close the lid, let it set up a little bit, and then come back to this color. I prefer to get the color of the area smooth before I leave it in most cases, because that way I know it's done. I feel a lot more accomplished when I know a section's done and doesn't require any more work. Now I'm gonna get a thinner brush for this little area here. And you guys notice when I'm wiping off my paintbrush on this wipe, I am just pulling it. I am not going back and forth and whatever. You will fray it all day long if you do it that way. But because this looks absolutely perfect, when I store it, it's gonna stay that way. So my husband just called. He's at the ENT and he has the ears of a 4-year-old child. And I mean, not just because he doesn't listen to anything I say, but also because he has to have tubes put in all the time. And he will just sit there in the office, no surgical procedure or anything. They'll numb it up a little bit, stick a tube in it while he's in the office, because he, he was a Marine for 7 years, a U.S. Marine. He's, bad like that. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you ever noticed you do it, but do you ever see yourself avoiding the line, like staying on the side of it and not going over the line, because we were all trained as little children, stay inside the lines? So that when you have 2 colors that are next to each other and you have that little white space or that little lighter colored area, that's called a fear space. And what it means is, my professor told me this when I was getting my art degrees back 10 years ago. A fear space is like a little kind of white area between that color and this color or whatever, that you're so afraid to go over and touch each other that you leave this little gap. So that's something you definitely want to watch out for, because even though I'm aware of it, sometimes I notice I'll do that. I'll get it a little lighter next to the line and it looks like 2 separate colors instead of a blend of colors. So cover the line when you have a nice opaque color. Then when you put in the next color, you'll notice that it just butts up against each other really nicely. All right, so that turned out really pretty. It's got a nice even coated finish. It's still drying. This one up here looks pretty good overall, but it's definitely gonna get another coat to even things out now that it's dry. And I'm gonna move on to another color. So I'm just gonna kind of work my way this way, because that's how I roll. No rhyme or reason. All right. I'm gonna do number 2 first, which is a little tiny one right in there. And I could have used a different brush, but this one's okay. The only problem with this little brush that I'm using in a tight spot right now is because the bristles are frayed at the tip, and it can make a mess. So because this was one that I restored, it's not exactly perfect, but it does work well enough to be able to continue to use it. I'm not about to throw it away. I love this brush so much. I have about 6 or so of this one particular kind, this 3/0 Artist Loft, but I just can't bring myself to throw them away. I want to come up with a better solution to get them restored if I can. The egg whites is what works the best for me, if they've gotten so far gone. Okay, now I'm going to be careful, but I'm overlapping a little bit on the green to make sure that the line is totally gone. And in order to get thickness out of the outline, I'm just pulling it towards the center. So if I get a little too much right there at the outside of the line, then I will pull it towards the center to get rid of it. I hope that makes sense, y'all. It's so hard to show what I'm talking about. I want a smooth transition from one color to the next. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And I don't want there to be a lot of excess of this color pulled up on the edges. So then I paint the exterior and then I pull it towards the center. I'm gonna paint this exterior. And you see, if you could see it, I know you probably can't get close enough, but it's got a little ledge. So I'm gonna take that little ledge and pull it into the center, and it gets rid of that higher layer on the outside, like a border. Now I see a little of this line, a little bit in there. So I'm gonna cover that up. All right, perfect. Some of these little tiny numbers are hard to read because they are in the orangey yellow color. But they did give me a reference guide, so thank goodness for that, because like this one here, it looks like a 1, but I want to verify that it's a 1 on my reference guide before I paint it, just to be sure. And here, what I should do is switch my brush. So I'm going to do the wider part with this frayed little Artist Loft brush, but then I'm going to switch my brush to this one from Princeton. That is, let me look at this one. This is a Petite Spotter 10/0. And that will allow me to get down in this little tiny area right here with perfection. It looks so beautiful. Okay, now you guys will notice that I'm going color and then doing a different color and a different color. Sometimes, depends on my mood, I will do all of number 6. I'll find all of number 6 in this area and I will do them all. And then I'll come back and I will do all of number 1 or whatever the color is. With this little painting, because he's so colorful, all the number 6s are like all over the place. It'd be like being in a scavenger hunt, trying to find all the 6s or all the 1s or all the 12s or whatever. There's no section of just one color or, you know, just a couple colors or whatever. It's so vast that I'm actually going from color to color to color, and you'll notice I'm doing that. A lot of people will be like, oh, that's not a very efficient way to paint, but this is not the way I paint other paintings. This is the way this one is because he is so colorful. So I'm back to my red Artist Loft brush because this opening is a little larger. And I start putting that block right in the middle, and then I move it outward towards the outside lines. Sometimes when you're trying to teach somebody something, you don't know every step you do until you're doing it. So it's hard to remember certain things. Like when I do a video, I might forget to tell you little details of things. And that's why I thought I would do it this way, even though I'm talking the whole flipping time. But some of the things that I do that I just kind of do second nature, I can tell you what I'm doing. And you notice I go in different directions. So like I'm gonna pull it towards me, but then I'm gonna go in this direction get down here in this little tiny opening, which I might need to get my tiny brush again. But pulling it this way towards you and then going in the opposite direction is what makes that paint so smooth. Now, I did not notice this little tiny crack when I put my other brush up. I don't like switching brushes this much back and forth, but like I said, because the colors on this painting are all over the place, I really don't have a choice. And this brush allows me to get in here with such detail that there's no way I could do it with the other brush I was using. This is the little 10/0 detail spotter from Princeton. Okay. Well, I'm gonna take a break from the video and make myself some lunch, but I hope this was helpful for you guys on how to paint a large opening type of painting. And I hope that you will join me again for my little painting party. And we will see you back another day. Okay, so you guys stay safe, stay home if you can, and paint with me. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you as always for watching.